Well, fast am I. It's just after midday, Monlay on Thursday, Jadain and Quegulay mean and Nulloch, the 5th day of the Christmas month, as we rather quaintly call it in Manx. And this is Manx Radio's Mannin Line. It's me, Phil Gawne. Another big storm coming. Should MLCs be limited to just 2 terms in office? And should we all be following the example of this evening's Alternativity service that recognises the conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East? And what about dog poo? Anyone fancy getting their teeth into that meaty topic? This is your programme, so please call and tell us what you're thinking. And there we are. 66 13 68, text 166 177 or email studio@manxradio.com. Sadly, Andy's a little under the weather today, but hopefully he'll be feeling better tomorrow. So, texts just in. First one. It's the talk of the North this morning. There was a Russian drinking on his own in the Grosvenor pub in Andros last night. He only spoke when ordering at the bar. Now, is that... Well, he spelt this Russian Russian, so I'm guessing it's not someone from the parish of Russian. So, yes, well, interesting. Are there spies at the Grosvenor? Which I'm guessing is what the texter ending 845 is intimating. And then we also have a message in, a text in. As Phil is hosting the Mannin Line today, do we dare mention the government's new food strategy? Well, yes, of course you can. What a load of nonsense they talk about food security when all they've done since 2004 is destroy agriculture on this island. Now they want to revive it. What with fields that have been neglected, stock that is bypassing our disaster of a meat plant, and the latest is to pay the arable farmers to leave the crops in the field for the wildlife. Whatever happened to farmers producing food for the people? And that's from Marie. I'm not sure why Marie thinks that I wouldn't be interested in hearing about that, because certainly during my time as Agriculture Minister, I put loads of effort into trying to find solutions for the farmers, trying to help them through what was a difficult time. Anyway, next... text in, the PAC should review the performance of government management accounts and finance officers. The latest news is that the airport has overspent and that DFE have lost 500,000 backing a failed online law business. And I suppose, and that's from Gaz there. Now, I'm not sure whether... Well, £500,000 is a lot of money, so yes, that someone should be investigating that to see what went wrong. But the other thing to I suppose to contemplate is what do you do as the Department for Enterprise? Do you only back absolutely dead cert companies, or do you have to take a little bit of a punt? £500,000, I suppose, is more than a little bit of a punt. But there we are, and an overspend at the airport. Well, I hadn't heard that, but perhaps there's news on that about to come. And then Tina, hi Phil, I heard Tina Brennan on the programme yesterday, and her commitment to Sunderland is laudable, indeed it is. However, there is an annual memorial service at the Memorial Garden every year, and that is sufficient. This is according to James. So there doesn't need to be anything more on the site. As an island, we respect the victims and their families, but this is enough despite what Tina says. And as I say, that was from James. And I think James makes some reasonable points there, but equally, Summerland was a truly horrific incident. It was an incident which potentially could have been avoided, although back then the rules governing the quality and the standard of buildings were much less stringent than they are today, and possibly as a result of the Summerland tragedy, that's why building regs have been dramatically improved. So, should we do more to remember that very, very tragic event? Please do text in, call. I'm desperate to hear from you, because there's no texts coming in and there's no phone calls coming in, and you don't want to hear me whittering on for hours. So Portlamora, Port St Mary commissioners have raised concerns over the unfortunate increase in dog fouling across the village. Is it a village, though? The port. You see, I would always refer to it as the port, not a village. But anyway, that's me. And at last night's meeting, the board agreed to lobby government for solutions, including exploring DNA testing to identify offenders and collaborating with other local authorities to tackle the issue. Commissioner Callum O'Meara spoke to the local democracy reporter Emma Draper about that, and I'm sure you can find that on the website. It's a difficult area, dog mess, apart from the irresponsibility of the owners who allow their dogs to do their business on pavements and then don't think it's their responsibility to clear up. And that ultimately is where the problem lies. It's a difficult one to actually prosecute. You have to have absolute evidence that the dog had done its business in the offending place. You have to be sure that it was that dog. You have to be sure that the owner, because apparently there's an excuse, the owner can be going away to get a bag to pick up the mess. That seemed to be a reasonable excuse. So it's difficult to prosecute, and without prosecutions, I guess the irresponsible dog owners just think, well, why should we bother? And that's the problem with irresponsible people. Anyhow, we now have some more messages coming in. Phil, do you have a good voice for radio? I've got a good face for radio, I know that much. And then Faster My Phil, please, from your recent interview with Kate Lord Brennan, did she identify how any constitutional changes would financially benefit Isle of Man PLC or not? And if not, why waste time and effort when people are looking for government to fix the health service, finish the need for the food bank and GRI, etc.? Well, it wasn't Kate Lord Brennan, it was Tanya August Phillips, as she's now become, that I did the interview with. And I guess the idea is that if you have a better constitutional structure, that facilitates you to actually achieve more as government, then that will ultimately be more beneficial for the Manx taxpayer. And we have got some callers. Robert is on line 1, and if I can remember what to do here, press that button there. Robert, are you there?
I am here. How are you?
Good. How are you, more to the point?
Well, it's a long time ago since I spoke to you, but it'd be nice to have a talk about constitutional politics for a second and what they're actually doing for us.
Yeah.
Because we don't seem to have an effective opposition.
Well, that's for you to demonstrate. So tell us, why do you think we don't have an effective opposition?
Well, I mean, it's cronyism at the end of the day, isn't it? You know, it's an archaic system. We got rid of the bench. We got rid of the way how they vote at the start to vote in the chief minister. So they got rid of that, to be honest with you. And they did all of that. But, I mean, we still don't have, Labour, unfortunately, vote against each other. The two ladies are in there, much respect to them. But, I mean, we don't seem to have much of a effective opposition, and there's no one from McVannon or anything like that. I know you don't like them, but, I mean, we don't seem to have anything.
Hey, there's a sweeping charge. Who said I don't like McVannon?
Well, okay, maybe. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but I mean, you parted your ways from them, to be honest with
Well,
you,
I think it was
haven't you?
more the other way round. They parted from me rather
Right,
than... But anyway,
right,
that's by the by.
okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's your opinion, obviously, about the effective opposition. There are...
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
well,
I'm wrong.
there are a number of members who ask searching questions. There are a number of members who just ask questions, perhaps not as searching as they might be. What sort of opposition are you looking for? What would you prefer to see?
Look at Laurie Hooper. Look at Laurie Hooper. Sorry to interject, but
That's all right.
look at Laurie Hooper. When they say, well, we hold people accountable and things like that, that's just a reactionary vote, to be honest with you. We don't have anyone to stand up and say, look, this is who we are. This is the Manx people. This is who we're about. I'm not one to lead it because I'm just not like that. But I mean, we don't have anyone from our core that can just like stump up and step up to the plate and say, like, this is what we are. We don't have any onto or anything like that, like they have over Ireland, or we don't have any. I mean, Liberal Vannon is there, but I mean, it's not. What is it? I mean, it's one person, and quite often they're conflicted in their own premises of what they do. So, once they get into the curtails of, confidentiality and, they just run the mill of things like that. I mean, it'd be great if the guy from Onken would step up and lead his own party or something like that, to be honest with you, because I think that's the next deal.
And actually,
the next play the cards.
Yeah, and I guess this is part of the constitutional reform discussion, in that what happened in the 90s was the introduction of the ministerial system of government, which has been a very effective way of doing government. But there hasn't really been any dramatic change in relation to Tynwald in how Tynwald scrutinises or indeed holds government to account. And possibly that's an area that of constitutional reform that's needed. I know Lord Lisvane had suggested some ideas, but whether they...
I'm not into isolationist politics or anything like that. I think that would be a nightmare, to be honest with you. I think Brexit and things like that, I've done all of that, and that's been a bit of a palaver for them. So I think we need to work with the UK and stuff like that. But I mean, it's a nice to have. But I mean, it would just great if what's the guy from Onken called?
Well, there's several, but Rob Collister is the MHK.
Rob Collister.
Yeah.
He's the only guy, and they keep on knocking him back, don't they? They keep on. He gets a post, and then he loses a post, and he gets a post, and then he loses a post. So they keep on knocking him around.
Well, he's chair of planning now and chair of the Public Service Commission. So hopefully,
is he? Right. Okay. So he's doing well.
Yeah.
Right. Well, fair enough.
Okay.
All right. Well, good. So good luck to you anyway.
Great. Okay. Thanks for that.
Bye.
Cheers, then. So that was Robert there. Trev very charitably says, well, actually, Phil, the years you were Minister for Agriculture is when most of the damage to agriculture was done, in my opinion. Well, if that's all the thanks you get, it's no wonder so few people stand to be members of Tynwald. Anyway, let's not get personal. So the text in, Phil, the qualities needed to be an MLC are not to be a declared bankrupt or to have had any contact with businesses that have been and are insolvent. That still owe government money, and they should not be a former MHK or Freemason. This may narrow the field, but it will make for some decent, honest people who would be in it for the right reasons. I do live in hope for this, says Francis. Well, the hope springs eternal. Well, Charlie possibly is on line one now, so let's have a look and see whether Charlie is there. Charlie.
Hi, boy.
Hi.
It was mentioned yesterday that virtually every MHK has been been a minister now.
Right. Well, I think there's still a good scotch of them there that haven't, but there are quite a few ex-ministers.
You're ex-MHK, aren't you?
Yes.
Right. You clarify it then. Like Sir Karen, he was made up to Minister of Education for 6 weeks and then sacked, wasn't he?
No, Peter was in for longer. I think it was about 6 months that Peter served.
Was it okay?
Yeah.
But is it true then? I was told it was by a retired civil servant, he's dead now, unfortunately, that if an MHK is made up for a minister, when he comes to a pension, he gets paid on a minister's pension.
There is an uplift. Basically, what happens is it's your years. Well, I don't know. In the system that the one that I was part of, I mean, I don't know. It's probably well, I know it has changed subsequently, but you used to have additional qualifying time added onto your pension if you had served as a minister. So it wasn't so much that you got a ministerial pay, but
10%. Is it 6 or 10% you get extra if you become a minister?
At the time I was, it was 15. I think it was 15. Oh no, it was 30%. 30%. Was it 30% for being a member of a department and 50% for being a minister? That was the uplift. But effectively, when you look at
50% increase, Christ almighty.
Well, the idea was that would encourage people to take on the more difficult roles in government. Subsequently,
well, years ago, when the last time John Shimon stood, I went to a pint at the Buddy.
Yeah,
and he walked in, and some lads who were just van drivers that stand by the door. He's on your MHK. And the way he talked down to people, oh, you good people have got to vote for me.
Right.
And then one of them says, what's the wages like, John? At the time, it was about 37,000, 39,000. He says, not that good. And I shouted from the bar to the door. I said, don't take the piss, John.
Mm-hmm.
I says, 37,000 basic pay. £7,000 secretarial expenses. At that time, you didn't have to pay for a pension. You got a pension.
Yeah.
You got 50% extra for being a minister. You got travelling allowance. If you sat on a department, if you sat on a committee, I think you got £2,500–3,000 per annum.
No, if you were a member of a department, you got 30% extra, and if you were the chair of a board, you got 15% extra. So
I remember the late David Collister interviewing Tony Brown.
Yeah,
and he says, question to Tony Brown, how many committees you're on, Mr. Brown? 18, Mr. Collister.
Yeah.
Well, say for average, say. You're 6 as a minister, 6 as a chairman of a committee. That's a lot of extra money.
Well, no, you didn't get any money for sitting on a committee. You only got an extra for being a minister, a chair of a board, or a department member, and that has subsequently changed.
Department member then.
Yeah, but it has subsequently changed. Anyway, I will have to go now because suddenly
at that time, I think the average MHK was on about 120,000.
Gosh, well, I wish I was. I think I got to about 64,000 when I was minister.
The nurses and the pensioners.
Yeah.
They're talking now of giving a minimum wage of about 14,000, which is about £22,000 a year for a pensioner. For a working man.
Yeah.
I agree with that. They should have a livable wage.
Absolutely.
For a pensioner, is expected to survive on about £10,000.
Yeah. Well, sadly, I will have to leave you there because there's loads of text coming in.
In 2 years' time, won't it?
Yeah, well, exactly. That'll be the time. Anyway, yeah, thanks very much. Time for some adverts.
As festive as Santa trains and pantomimes. Manx Radio at Christmas.
For the first time in nearly 2 months, FC Isle of Man are looking to bounce back from defeat. Can they do so on home soil this weekend? The Ravens are back at the Bowl and take on a struggling Prestwich Hayes, who are desperate for points at the foot of the NWCFL Premier Division table. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Tony Mepham for FC Isle of Man versus Prestwich Hayes, kicking off at 6 p.m. this Saturday. Manx Radio will be bringing you full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels. Live coverage of FC Isle of Man on Manx Radio is supported by Selton, investing in our community.
Hello Isle of Man. At Co-op, we believe it's wrong to lower prices on things you buy least. So we lower the prices on the things you buy most, as well as giving you other exclusive member benefits. Plus, we now deliver to the whole island, so great deals can be delivered to your doorstep. So join Co-op to become not just a member, but an owner and have your say on how we're run. Co-op, owned by you, right by you. £1 membership fee applies. See full T's and C's at coop.co.uk/terms.
There's more than you think at Manx Glass and Glazing. As well as the supply and installation of quality windows, doors and conservatories, Manx Glass and Glazing can do a lot more with glass. If you need made-to-measure picture frame glass or a cut-to-size mirror, or how about glass shelves made to fit your space perfectly? You can also get glass cut for the tops of cabinets, units and bedside tables. For bespoke glass cutting and products, call Manx Glass and Glazing on 674-573. Manx Glass and Glazing. Quality and style since 1986.
Construction waste today.
Tells recycle for another day.
A builder skip or two.
Tells skips will bring to you.
At Tells Skip Hire and Waste Disposal in Snugborough, you only pay for the waste you bring. For waste disposal and skips, give us a call on 677 137. That's 677 137. Visit Tells today or find Tells Limited on Facebook.
Call Tells Skips today.
677 137.
We are ready to go at B&B Furniture with a wide range of manager specials throughout the store. If it says I'm ready to go, then it is ready to go. Priced in-store for immediate delivery and no long wait for stock to arrive onto the island. Get the furniture you're longing for with no wait, no deposit required and 0% finance available when you get ready to go at B&B Furniture. It's all here under one roof at the B&B Furniture 3-storey showroom in Snugborough.
B&B Furniture. Station, Manx Radio.
And welcome back to the Mannin line. Don't forget, call 66 13 68 or text 166 177 studio@manxradio.com. And several people have been doing just that. And we'll come to Bonzo very shortly, but text in from Barry. I've absolutely nothing against cyclists, but why, oh why do they have to wear black clothing at night or on dark days? Tuesday there was a cyclist going down the Richmond Hill in the middle of the road with the smallest of light in his bike. Cars were nearly hitting him. I deal with first aid most days and don't want to do any more than I have to. And yes, it is. It's a problem. And the older you get, is the less your eyes see. I've discovered certainly that people with very dark clothing riding push bikes, you are taking your life in your hands a bit. Another text in. Hi, Mannin Line. Just read the front page of the Manx Independent. Government trip included the dry cleaning of the underwear charged to the Manx taxpayer. Am I missing something here? Well, I suppose you wouldn't want them going into meetings with dirty underwear, would you? And then it says you should rub the dog's owner's noses in it. Yes, well, you could say that. I couldn't possibly comment. Graham says, I would like to know why the DOI is spending so much money doing pavements that hardly anyone walks on, yet our roads that we drivers pay to use are a disgrace. That's from Graham. Are we any closer to finding out if we have Manx gas off Machald? Gas reserves on our doorstep and a gas-powered power station already in place. Also, the government a few years ago spent a fortune on converting everyone to natural gas. That's true. This infrastructure is already in place and ready for use. Why is the government not pursuing these potential gas reserves on its doorstep? It's a no-brainer for me. Time for a referendum on climate net zero. And that's from Kevin. And final one, and then we'll go to Bonzo, from Alan. And Alan says, it may no be PC. It may not be PC in 2024 to comment on this, but I am upset to hear that Mohammed is the top name for UK boys' names. Well, you're welcome to make whatever comments you wish, Alan. And I think on the subject of making whatever comments you wish, it's time that we heard from Bonzo, who's been waiting very patiently on line 2. Or has he?
Oh, you want me to wait? You want me to make any comments I wish? No. I didn't.
Well, within reason, obviously.
I will exercise responsible self-censorship.
Excellent stuff.
But coming back to one of the things you were saying about people who cycle in camouflage in the dark, right? Why is it that today the most popular colour for a car seems to be the colour of the road?
Yeah, I've noticed that. Annie and I often have these discussions as we're driving along in the car, and I'm noting all these white and, well, it's not white, I suppose is okay, but grey and brown and dark coloured, dull coloured cars.
In varying light conditions.
Whatever happened to red and yellow cars?
Yeah, on a relatively sunny day, or even on a relatively sunny day, you can be looking down the road and go, "Oh yeah, nothing there," and then there's a car coming at you, and you're halfway across the road, which is very strange. As for red cars, it's because they fade in the sunlight.
Do they? Oh, right.
Yeah,
well, there we are.
Which is bad. But they used to have, in the 70s, they used to have a concept called safe colours. And indeed, I had a Volkswagen Beetle in a safe colour, safe sort of yellow ochre, and Porsche used to do these kind of colours as well. It was great, you could see people for miles. It was, really very helpful.
Yeah.
So car manufacturers, I know you can have any colour you like so long as it's black, but any colour you like as long as it's road colour. Please no, can we actually have something that we can see, or not with LED lights that blind you?
Well, exactly.
Anyway, that rant over. Getting back to another thing that people can rant on: payment for politicians. Right. Yes, I can hear people's teeth grinding.
What you're going to say? They're not paid enough.
What I'm going to say is that you should think about what they do, and before somebody goes, ponce around all day. The thing is that, all right, average MHK, how many hours does an average MHK really work? You can tell me.
Well, in my experience, I tended to work from the moment I woke up in the morning till the moment I went to bed. So a good 12-hour day, more than 12-hour day, 15-hour days, 6 days a week. And usually I read legislation on a Sunday.
Okay, so I think we can typically say, well, you were a minister, of course, but I think we can typically say your average MHK works at least a 60-hour week.
Yeah, I would say at least.
Yeah, at least, if they're doing the job properly. Right now, a basic pay and additionals nowadays for an MHK is something like, 65?
Basic what? Pay? Yeah, something like that now. Yeah.
It's something like that, but that's because, as somebody else was saying, all these expenses they get, etc. No, nobody gets expenses anymore. Everything is taxable.
Yeah.
And of course, the large uplifts for being ministers and things have gone away, and departmental members, as you were saying, only get 15% more for fair chunk of work that they have to do because they are effectively junior ministers.
Yes.
And departmental members now get out, and a minister now gets 15%, and I think the chief minister gets, was it 25%? Was it 30%?
I'm not au fait with the latest or the updated stuff.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. So that's now all taxable, and I believe pensions are now money purchase rather than the contribution system. So MHKs are paying for their own pension and they're having to pay accelerated pension contributions and things into the scheme, I believe. So that's taking a relatively, good chunk of the nice, generous amount of money. And then, of course, you have the fact that, whenever you go to an event, if there's a tin shaking around, you're the first one to be expected to put at least a tenner in it.
A tenner at the very least, yes.
At the very least, yes. Write a cheque. So that's another thing, I think, which isn't considered. But if you consider that the bare thing of you work 60-hour a week and you're on call, your number is publicly available. So people can come and nag you, and you're down at the co-op, and people can collar you and say, "Excuse me, what about my bins or something?" 60 hours a week for that kind of money, you're talking about minimum wage, aren't you?
Well, it's certainly not a generous salary when you take account of the hours.
It's an ordinary salary when you do it in an hourly basis for quite a bit of responsibility.
And I think the other thing to remember, and certainly this was something that I had to deal with, was for several years after you have been unseated by your electorate, it's a real struggle to find any work.
There's nothing
very much because you have been in those key roles in government. You've taken on a key role, and people, the number of people that said to me, "Well, I think you'd be really good at this, but because of your former role as a minister, we think it might be best if we don't appoint you." It's you've got to remember that the most that you are promised by your electors is a 5-year term, and who knows what will happen after.
Right. I mean, as they say across, there's nothing as X as an ex-MP.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have been fine. A lot of the newly unemployed MPs are finding a similar problem. But it's as Malcolm Tucker said in The Thick of It. I won't include all the swear words, but
I'm grateful for that.
Yes. Politicians. Politicians. Nobody thinks politicians should have anything. Politicians should wear sackcloth and live in a cave.
Yes, and I'm not saying that. Because it was I had it was a wonderful experience being an MHK and being a minister and having all those responsibilities. It was, it was a great time, and I'm glad that I did it. But do I feel that I was overpaid? Not really. I mean, maybe that's just me. But anyway. I'd better go, though, Bonzo, because there's a whole scotch of text coming in here, and I do want to get through them if at all possible.
I'll let you sort through the backlash. All right?
Excellent, marvellous. Thanks for setting it up.
Bye.
So that was Bonzo. As I say, there are lots of texts in, so I'm going to try and get through some of these. Tina Brennan was merely an onlooker at Summel, and her voice and opinions do not carry the same weight as those many people impacted directly by the tragedy. There are many who do not want another memorial other than the one which lists the names of those who sadly lost their lives. It often appears that the people making the most noise are purely seeking compensation. This woman is doing more harm than good, and that's from Janie. Then we have opposition equals direct democracy. That's from Texter 039. Then we have Hi Phil. Ramsar Wetlands, Waterworld, back of Balaf Currachs has been drained off and pipe removed from Joint Lane. Water is directed and flooding neighbouring property. This is bad for biosphere and not acceptable. And that's from Manx Will. And then what about horse droppings on the road? This also needs addressing, leaving dog owners alone. Majority pick up after their dogs. Not one horse rider I've ever seen does that. Thanks, Phil. Well, the one thing with horse droppings, as opposed to the other, the dog sort, is you can actually use them on your roses. whether it's safe, I don't know, is it safe to go out onto the road and pick up the horse manure? It probably is if you're careful. And then another, contrary to your earlier listener, I completely agree with what Tina Brennan is trying to do with regard to the Summerland disaster. There should definitely be a memorial at the site where sadly so many people lost their lives and many had life-changing injuries. Thank goodness for people like Tina, and that's from Alison. Then you talk of effective government, your words. How effective is a government that has all of the same issues that we've had for the last 20 years? Housing, healthcare, inward investment, falling population, and financial woes. None of these have been resolved in any way, shape or form, and Tynwald spent its meetings pontificating on all of the above and more without any results. Right, and then the next texter, Die Hard, Quango, mysterious. I'm not quite sure whether there's another bit to that message. And then the Manx hide and seek has been a minister yet, as he's... the Manx hide and seek hasn't been a minister yet, as he's too busy killing off Isle of Man post. I wonder who you could mean. And then Faster My Phil, great to hear on the radio. Yes, we'll have more texts like that. I got a letter from the Manx Electricity Board the other day saying that I'm getting a new smart meter put on my house. I don't want one. I really don't know what to do. Has anyone else experienced this problem? I'm 78 and I really don't need this worry. Thank you, Beryl from Bray Hill. And I'm not sure. I mean, I know that smart meters are being fitted. The idea seems to be that it will save the MUA having to go out and read meters, which will be a saving, which hopefully will be passed on to customers. But yes, I'm sure, Beryl, if you got in touch with the MUA, maybe John Wannenberg, MHK, he's the chair of the MUA, he might be able to assist with that. Anyway, time to listen to some of these.
For a merry Manx Christmas, give a gift that keeps on giving. From days out to gifts handmade on the Isle of Man. There's something for everyone at the Manx Museum and House of Mannin Heritage Shops, where every purchase helps care for our incredible island. Also available online at manxnationalheritage.im.
Conister Bank is celebrating a remarkable milestone in 2025. 90 years of proudly serving the Isle of Man, growing alongside our island's communities. To honour this journey, Conister are telling their unique story in a book, and they want you to be part of it. If you have a story, photo, or a piece of Conister's history to share, you can help Conister bring those memories to life. Get in touch. Email marketing@conisterbank.co.im. That's marketing@conisterbank.co.im. Conister Bank, celebrating 90 years of community, heritage and connection.
Make memories this Christmas when you choose a real tree from Robinson's. At Robinson's Christmas Tree Park, you'll find a superb selection, including traditional, non-drop and potted Christmas trees, along with magical wreaths and mistletoe. The excitement of Christmas really begins when you choose your tree from Robinson's Christmas Tree Park on Cool Road. Now open, with netting and delivery service available.
As a long-established firm, Mann Benham offer a comprehensive range of legal services assisting individuals and businesses, from sole traders to the island's largest employers. Mann Benham have built up a reputation for giving a fast, efficient, cost-effective service with a personal edge. From buying and selling property to drawing up leases, employment matters, contracts and more. Call Mann Benham for your free consultation on 639 350.
Man Benham, here for you.
Coming soon, you could be a big winner with Manx Radio's 12 Days of Christmas. We've got some massive prizes up for grabs,
including goodies from the Abbey Restaurant, King Spa and Millie Chaps.
So keep listening for your chance to win this festive season.
Manx Radio's 12 Days of Christmas, brought to you by SpectrumWindows.im. When the Mannin line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
And of course, when the Mannin line is on air, you can call 66 13 68, or you can text 166 177, or email studio@manxradio.com, which several people have been doing. And as I sort of expected, a text in here from texter ending 134. Come on, how is a basic salary of 80,000 as MHK a poor salary? You never see any of them at the food bank. Many people who need help would love a salary as bad as 80,000, and that's from Rich. Well, I wouldn't say necessarily it was a bad salary, and certainly in my time it was nowhere near £80,000. But that's a point well made. Then we have a message in from Andy. People don't seem to know. Rob Collister admitted being dishonest in Tynwald Court. Anywhere in the world he would be ousted, gone. But it seems okay to be dishonest in our Parliament. That's Andy's opinion. And next we have from... it doesn't say CCX, it says. So texter ending 775. Best wishes and hope Andy's feeling better soon. I was hoping to get info as to whether our farmers have been made to use the anti-Trump food. Oh, I see. I was thinking about American politics there, but I think it's more to do with gases. The anti-Trump food to feed our cows or livestock. Big news across. Well, as far as I'm aware, that hasn't been the case. I'm pretty sure I would have heard if it had, so I think not. Then why do all Manx people pronounce Rob Collister's name as Collister? Always been curious. Because it is Collister, I suppose. I'm curious as to why people pronounce it as Callister, because it's always been Collister. In all my life, but I don't know. Not sure why people get hung up about it. I know Rob doesn't mind. He seems to prefer being called Callister these days, but that's that. And then, Phil, please, the UK Labour politician pushing for a new inquest into the Summerland deaths, is she looking for political interference in Isle of Man courts and government, or looking for monetary compensation as the Grenfell victims were awarded, or both? Wondering why your correspondent didn't push Sarah Holm on these aspects. And I'm guessing she has constituents, and the best way that she can demonstrate that she's doing something for them is by pursuing this matter, by asking questions and raising it in the UK Parliament. I'm not sure. Well, presumably at some point, if we're speaking to her again, those questions will be asked. Then we have speaking of irresponsible dog owners, there have been several reports lately of people, and sometimes their dogs, being attacked by out-of-control dogs. I think there needs to be tighter controls on owning a dog because they can be dangerous if not properly trained. Those who think their friendly little rover would never do anything but jump up on people for attention need to realise that others are not as enamoured of their pooch as they are. Dog lovers always blame the owners, and that is true, but not much comfort when friendly little rover has sunk his teeth into a person or their dog. People should have to apply to own a dog and be obliged to attend a dog training course beforehand. That's according to Sue. And then let's have a look. Pammy says, would have been cheaper to buy new underwear rather than pay to remove the soil that was built up. Okay, and then what else have we got here? Des, if you drive with your lights off at night, yes, it's very hard to see someone in black. Well, yes, that's fair enough. I mean, the lights tend to be on when I'm driving my car. Although these cars where the lights are kind of on and you're not entirely sure, I don't know. We got a newer car recently, and there's kind of lights that come on when it's gloomy, whether you switch them on or not. which can be confusing for the elderly driver such as myself. Anyway, as a cyclist and driver, I think it should be compulsory for all cyclists to have to wear a high-vis vest or be fined. That's from Ali. Bonzo says, let's see, if Bonzo can't see a grey or a grey road, a grey car on a grey road or a black car on a black road, then he'd best stay indoors. Then we have the new Jaguar coming out is pink. Well, that would be a nice, easy colour to see. If Bonzo has colour vision problems, he shouldn't be driving. That's from Des. Where have we got here? Fastamai, the loading of Coman with an additional minister and the new departmental members have made it so 4 government departments have a block vote of 12 votes in Keys, also known as a permanent majority. 3 others have 11, which is a majority of 1 MHK is absent from the House of Keys at any time. This is why there is no genuine argument or debate in the House. DOI and Health have a permanent majority. This is a problem when the government is about to, for example, bring a bill to replace all of the NHS acts in one go. Consensus should be made in Tynwald, not just in departments. And that's from Andy. Certainly when I was a minister and indeed departmental member, it was always very clear that as a departmental member, it's provided you told the minister in advance that you weren't going to support a particular issue and you gave good reason for that, then that was fine. There was never such a thing in my time, in my department anyway, of a block vote. You voted in the way that you viewed the issue. Quite frankly, I took the view that if I couldn't win over my department members internally in the department, then I shouldn't be taking the matter to Tynwald. So that's that. That was from Andy. A few others coming in. I've been spray painting around the path at Southern Nomads Pitch Spray, and that's from the Poops. £80,000 is not a bad wage per year for a 5-year apprenticeship. Well, they talk about this 5-year apprenticeship. Quite frankly, after a year, you should know what you're doing as an MHK, and if you can't then affect the dramatic change that you've been elected for, then perhaps you need to be seeking a different role. And then please read my message out as it's important to Manx public. We must start selling more Manx produce as we are very close to all-out war with Russia. The shipping lanes will stop and we will be at the mercy of UK airports. Our own politicians squabble and score points constantly and nothing gets done, only arguing amongst themselves, by which time we quite literally run out of food during conflict. A worried Big John from Ramsey, and I share those worries, despite what the texter Trev had said earlier. I'm very concerned as to how we would feed the island, bearing in mind only 6% of the food that we can consume on the island is Manx now. The minister told me that in a recent interview. What is a minister's definition of work, says David H. It can be all manner of things, but basically trying to do good things for the Isle of Man in relation to the department that you're in. And then I agree with Bonzo. Most MHKs do far more than people realise. They just don't broadcast it. It's a job I wouldn't like to do, whatever the pay, and I imagine many other people feel the same. That's from H. How are we doing for time? Oh, gosh, not much time left now. Hi, Phil. Totally agree with the call about cycling in dark clothes. They need to think about how the person that knocks them off would feel. It would be probably destroy me to think I could have avoided something. Also, do people expect everyone to work for nothing, comparing salaries? Not everyone can do a big paid job. Well, almost out of time now, unfortunately. What have we got? Yeah, we've got time maybe for one more. Back on the 5th of September 2018, Manx Radio ran an interview with Rob Collister where he complained there were too many houses on the area plan for the east. Seriously, how can 8 years later the chairman of the planning committee still be Rob Collister when he was against building houses? No wonder so many plans for new estates to support the desperate needed housing are turned down when the chairman doesn't like building new estates. Bit harsh to compare what he said back then as
festive as the Easter eggs being in the shops already. Manx Radio at Christmas.
And, what am I doing now?
As festive as the tinsel on the Douglas prom.
There we are. Getting there. Right, so apologies for that. Too busy looking at too many things. I hope you enjoyed the programme today. Thanks to Howard for producing, and particularly thanks for your company. I've tried to get through as many of the texts as I could, but there's still loads and loads there. Apologies for not getting to them all. Not sure who's going to be on the Mannin line tomorrow. Hopefully Andy will be back. But remember, if you think of something that you'd like to mention when the Mannin line isn't on air, out of hours, the number is 682-631. You can leave a message which may be played out on the show. Coming up next, it's Nain Dys Tree with Christy D.